Bom, eu gostaria, então, primeiro de agradecer muito o Escritório de Avaliação das Nações Unidas de Nova York, na pessoa do Indran, na pessoa da Ana Rosa, por todo o esforço que realizaram, para realizar
to make it
evento aqui no
feasible
Brasil.
this event here in Brazil. I think that it's a lot of pride of our ministry. It's mainly the Secretariat of Assessment and Information Management to receive and be here with this event. I feel really glad because in this event we count with people like the creator of the Secretariat for the Evaluation, who's working today in the UN offices in Rio Plus 20. One of the bodies the UN has to keep working, Professor Romulo Paes. He's over there. He's very shy, but please, come on, please stand up and let's give him a big round of applause. Romulo had a visionary idea in the past, and Patros Ananias, the former minister, if it weren't because of these people, this opportunity maybe wouldn't have come as it is today. I would really like to highlight that we have here 4 people working in. They couldn't make it to here. We have lots of activities in the Secretariat. We're, for example, disclosing the poverty rate, an extreme poverty rate, today after a long research on the Brazilian Institution for Statistics. They're producing all these results together with the ministry. We are surrounded by media. So we are here today with Alejandro Pinto. Where are you, Alejandro? We count with Alejandro. He is our director for evaluation. If you have something you would like to learn, you can talk to him. We have Mr. Marco Natalino as well. Marco is the general coordinator, and Luciana Sardinia, she is also here, as well as Cecilia Laidur. She's a coordinator at our evaluation department. We have some other colleagues here, and some other are in Brasilia, seeing us on the streaming channel we have created live. So this is my presentation. My presentation is made up by a text which was disclosed on the practices sector, and it was disclosed 2 or 3 weeks ago, and probably we will improve the final version after this discussion. I think this topic is very timely. I believe beyond credibility and independence, I believe we have many other things to discuss, especially when it comes to usage. It's not by chance that the Evaluation Secretariat has been called upon to be the co-sponsor of this event. We work for a social ministry. It's a ministry which works developing services and programs and actions that may impact directly the population. So this secretariat is working with information and knowledge with a clear target, which is actions that are innovative for management of our programs. I'd like to start with a couple of slides with preliminary remarks. The first is the development of the monitoring and evaluation systems and also statistical data. They follow the route of development and structuration of the protection programs. The bigger the system, the bigger the amount, or the higher the amount of capabilities, the better the project will be, and the demand will be also very high to evaluate if the programs are doing fine or not. So this is very important, I guess. Naturally, the way we structure our evaluation programs and our investigation, I believe, is one of the main factors that may improve our social programs, because now we can show how the government actions may impact people's life, not only the target population but also all the population in general, due to the multiplying effects that all the social and public investments have, especially when it comes to poor population. That's the first remark. I believe it's a very important remark. Many times we develop new methodologies, or we're in an effort of monitoring things which are ahead the basic need we need to cover first. My second slide, I believe, is not a new idea. I believe it's a very well-known concept, which is the system of monitoring and evaluation that may be defined as a set of structured and articulated processes for gathering, organizing, and disseminating information and knowledge. Knowledge, whether in the form of data, meta-analysis, evaluations, research, surveys, so on and so forth, for different stages of public policy cycle. So this definition is very broad, and is broad enough to cover the main three purposes of our monitoring and evaluation systems. They help to improve the design and management of the projects at the very end. That's the basic objective in our secretariat. That's what we do at the social ministry. But the systems, they ensure greater transparency as well. We have done many things when it comes to disseminate the results of our surveys and our research, and also the effects of our policies. And these evaluation systems, they produce evidence on the merits and the effectiveness of policies and programs. That, of course, is important when you're discussing budget, for example, for next year. So as I said before, the monitoring and evaluation system, they have three main objectives, and it's very important to have them clear all the time. These three objectives, they are complementary, but they are competing to each other when it comes to resources, technology, and efforts, of course. Here, in the audience, as far as I know, we have people from the technical part, we have people from the government, and I believe they are all concerned the way the information is being structured to make it transparent, to make clear how the government is investing money. When it comes to the Brazilian case, we have some bodies like the Federal Government Accounts Tribunal, and they are accountable for this evidence, and they show how the money is being spent in the country. We have some other people here in the audience related with the planning bodies of the government. Maybe the Ministry of Planning, or the Treasury, or any other agency where the main focus on evaluation is on the performance of public policies. And they are taking steps to improve the budget activities
e do conhecimento, ela depende de fatores relativos à oferta e do consumo, né? Então, veja, é importante a gente ter claro que o uso vai se dar quanto mais os nossos produtos, as nossas informações, as nossas pesquisas responderem às demandas dos diferentes usuários que se valem de nossas informações. A sociedade, os ministros, os gerentes de programas ou os técnicos lá na ponta que estão operando os programas, que entregam, de fato, aquilo que muitas vezes está sendo idealizado nas capitais dos países, mas que efetivamente é nos escritórios, mas é que efetivamente é entregue nos postos de saúde, nas escolas, nos centros de referência da assistência social e assim por diante. E, naturalmente, o uso da informação e do conhecimento...
And the use of technology and the use of knowledge, especially, depends, of course, on the way we customize the information for that specific user or for that specific purpose. Once information and knowledge produced in the monitoring...
Não são informações triviais, não são informações fáceis de entender, tá certo? Os indicadores com os quais, muitas vezes, nós estamos muito habituados são informações que podem ser difíceis de serem entendidas pelos outros técnicos.
For some other people involved in different stages of the process, not only in the government, but also in different agencies or bodies which are maybe contributing to conceive the elements of a given policy. So, when it comes to produce information and knowledge to improve the way this information is being used and to enhance the use of information, we should take into consideration many factors. First of all, this is a very basic assumption, is that the lawmakers, they do not need exhaustive data. They don't need highly detailed information. They do not need to know the way the information was developed. They need accurate information, of course, but they can skip some of the details, I guess. I believe they need a different type of data. I believe they do not need very detailed information. They need information which is relevant, which is consistent, and which is linked with a given intervention model. I believe we have some intervention models in the program which are articulated depending on what's the need. They need data to do that. Our policymakers, they need the best information by the time of the decision. The best information possible when the decision is about to be taken. We can't take 2 or 3 years to gather information or data about a given topic, because that, of course, is way beyond the time we were expecting to solve a given problem. The program managers, they need answers for the inherent questions to the cycle of that given program. It's pointless to produce information about the way the budget is being spent in one hand and talking about the different impacts and results this may have if the program is still on the deployment phase. I don't have to talk about budget if I'm talking about deployment. So we should take into consideration the stage of the program. Therefore, we need to pay attention to our program managers. They need to tell us what are the main questions they need to answer. We need to pay attention to our minister, to our program manager. We need to listen to the ones working with the population, because of 2 reasons. They will bring us information which is valuable and is very relevant, and they know what the questions are. The effort when it comes to monitoring and evaluation system is a huge effort, and it's the same effort we are doing when we are producing technological or scientific data. We need to be sure what are the main questions to be answered first. And secondly, better saying, we need to pay attention to them, because if they take part from the very beginning of the project, I believe they will influence not only the questions themselves, but they will also legitimate the results of their research, and they may feel more comfortable when they are using the research findings. The reality is that evaluation is something which is not very comfortable for everybody. When we're in the university, in the college, or at home, we don't like to be evaluated. So we need to take this, to bear this in mind, and we need to change the culture evaluation and respect the manager in the work front. There's nothing more unpleasant that devote yourself to an activity and spend many hours and undergo a huge effort and then being criticized and evaluated the wrong way. I believe we need to be very respectful, and we need to understand the way the information is being produced and try to give the feedback the best way we can. Sometimes a bad assessment, which was not very well designed, can have effects which are devastating. Well, it's 12:15 now. I believe it's a good time to give you some examples on the framework on how to work with hunger and poverty. I believe this is quite odd for you, but maybe part of our programs were created many years ago and they have lost their reference model. We need to rebuild our logical flow of a program like this. The interventions the ministry is doing when it comes to hunger and poverty evaluation. and nutrition as well. We have a set of dimensions from the production and the availability of equipment, the availability of food in the market, and the consumption itself. So, to enhance the use of evaluation, we need to revisit the model first. This way we will understand the way we are impacting the reality. The first step is to make everybody know this logical flow from the minister to the work front. Of course, a system like this has lots of indicators, and I'm not giving you all those details. We have people here that, of course, are more knowledgeable when it comes to all these indicators, so I'm not chasing down all of those things. But of course it involves lots of indicators. Our main concern is on the way we measure our factors. We need to be relevant, and we need to be all the time coherent with the things we are measuring. The fact is that in order to produce information which is relevant to the decision-taking process, we need to look for information where the information is. So the information is, of course, in the statistical systems in the country. It's impossible to develop a sustainable system if the statistics systems are not doing well. If they are not receiving enough funding, or if they are not receiving enough advocacy, if there are not commissions working with these statistical institutions, all this effort is going nowhere. We need to renew our questionnaires, and we need to address new topics, and that's the experience we have so far. We need to find the information where the information is. The public sector is a information factory. We produce information every day in the schools, in the hospitals, in all the interactions with population. This information is maybe in a hard copy, or they have a Excel spreadsheet, and we need to benefit from this information, and we need to put it into the system. This information is very valuable. We need to invest, of course, in a specific research programs with different designs, as we will see in these following slides. As I said before, it's very important to have information, as I said, on budget and resource indicators, and also on the indicators on the effect and the impact we're having. It's very important to have information on the products and deliveries of our programs. This information here many times is generated from our information systems we have on deliveries. All the information we have could be organized to create indicators, which is a very low cost information. It can be created very fast.
Regarding the results and impacts, as I told you already, it is very necessary to organize the information. It's worthless to just produce a whole catalog of indicators. We actually are not going to organize that information in order to be used. So one of the ways would be to organize it according to the relevance of the key indicators, right, more sensible, and that will periodically produce, that will enable us to assess the effects. It's like a thermometer that we put in order to actually to understand what's the fever, the temperature of the patient. So we need a kind of indicators like that. Then we need to actually to do a second level of indicators that will help us to understand those, and a third one that would be the context indicators, and will help us to understand all the others. So we need to organize the information in the indicators, all the research in a logic of relevance for each of the involved managers or monitors. Of course, I can't get into depth in here, but the ones that are the policy builders, based on evidence, they need indicators and information that are specific for each moment of the program in the life cycle. That's a classical life cycle of a program. A program is actually, it is formulated starting from the acknowledgement that there is a certain social demand that was placed in the agenda of the policies. So the strategic systems are very important to actually know the order of the sizes that will help us in order to advocate for the programs. Then we need to have information for decision making. There we've got these different kinds, multi-criteria indicators. Then we need that in the implemented program, we need to have indicators of monitoring at a certain moment, depending on the cycle of the program. That could be 2 years, could be 4 years, could be 8 years. We need actually to make a more complete assessment of all the results and impacts of the program to see whether we actually addressed the initial program. To anticipate the evaluations, programs that want to understand the impact when the program is still facing the traditional problems of implementation, there could be a strategy of actually doubtful result. Maybe it could be much more important to invest in information technologies and consultants to organize monitoring information that sometimes just do some kind of research. So we've got to call your attention because there are many kind of mythification of building synthetic indicators as these were the best useful information that we need for management. All the contrary. The more sophisticated is the system, the more sophisticated needs to be the set of indicators that we use for it. Naturally, it's important that we need to have a kind of a very eclectic, responsible positioning regarding the methods. Our social problems, hunger, poverty, malnutrition, violence, are complex problems. We need to make that triangulation of different methods of research in order to actually be able to address the complexity. Each method, of course, it's got its advantages and weak points. We are not favored for any specific technique. In our evaluation, there is no golden standard of technique. The best technique is that technique that produces information that is relevant for decision making, answer the questions that the manager needs, and many of those are based on evidence from qualitative methods, interviews with families, focus groups, and even letters from the people. This is some kind of evidence that I'm going to address after, but I imagine that in all our countries, people write to the president or the minister. That is, with all the difficulties that people actually have, people continue to write. And that's a wonderful source of information that we need to take into consideration. We from the ministry, we have already done many different researches, more than 131 researchers in the different kind of models, qualitative, quantitative, experimental. We put a very big effort from the very beginning in publishing an executive summary and the micro data when it's a qualitative research. Of course, we know that our capacity of analysis is very restricted. So when we finish the cycle of production, we make it available for the society, for the university, to be used for research. Here you've got a letter, for example. This is a letter very well written for a mother. She's 41-year-old with deficiency. She is handicapped, and her business is she wants to have her own business, a car to sell ice creams in the northeast of Brazil, where Secretary of Home is. And she says that the money that she receives is only to pay the house. She is actually requesting microcredit. It's someone from the program, from the family grant program. And as she asks microcredit, there are many different kinds of requests for. So for innovation of our policies, we need to read letters could be something interesting, even to know where those demands are coming from. It is possible to make an analysis structured by categories and map that set of letters during the time. So now getting into the end of my presentation, it's very important that we get concerned with the strategy of spreading news, producing information with different methods, more structured or exploring methods. It's very important. But then our effort in order to disseminate that information should be as much as the other, because if not, we're going to produce information, data, with very low impact at the end. So what actually helps more our use? A spreadsheet or a simple kind of newsletter with graphs, with a language that's easy to understand? Are we doing training program to explain the program within all its complexity? Are we actually developing programs or training regarding the indicators and regarding our own research in order to help so that our program managers and our technicians are able to understand better our researchers? Are we innovating in the strategy of dissemination, or we are just publishing papers or in PDF, in internet, hard copies or soft copies? So we need to innovate. So we've done a very big effort, also getting advantage of many international experiences. This is not our own merit, it's actually information from the whole around the world. So we have developed a portal, Brazil Without Misery, for the plan that we presented to you during the launch by Marcelo Cabral as a director of monitoring of that plan. That portal enables any manager from any city hall in Brazil, we've got more than 5,000 in Brazil, he can have a 5-page report updated every 2 months on the main effects on and deliveries of the program in its municipality. So they are reports very easy to be understood and read that talk about the program. They talk about the improvements of the program in his city. He's got an indicators panel that he can see a series of the different indicators, and enables to count the extreme poverty in each municipality. And we've been doing a very big effort in this last year then we made that the rate of poverty of the population of our program is actually going towards zero. Naturally, of course, we also make available analytical tools, although to use those tools, we are training our people. Of course, we've got, you see, this is something, sense information. We need to make an effort to build these maps so that managers in the different municipalities could actually understand and see the reality of extreme poverty or whatever social dimension you are assessing. And so, beside our efforts in the ministry, we've got the efforts of the office of UNDP, the Atlas Brazil. You can see it's a tool that you can use in this URL, that you can see a very big set of indicators and maps. So naturally, we've got also to make a very big effort for spreading publications, and in publications in the web. Internet actually leverages our possibilities of spreading news with technology. So we are trying to answer the demand that I place that is so important as producing it, that is to disseminate the information to qualify now our managers and users from the public sector, providing it will be at the end of this year remote courses and some presential courses that will enable to develop diagnosis capacity based on indicators in order to create the culture of use of indicators for follow-up, or at least for diagnosis, the culture of monitoring, and last, the culture of use of research and studies that are more complex with the time passing by. So, and last, the systems of monitoring and evaluation produce information and knowledge, and it's like a photograph that show our problems, our improvements, or difficulties and challenges. A good photograph or a good information regarding monitoring and evaluation depends on the camera, on the light and perspective. So it depends on the tool. It depends on the research, on the model, but mainly it depends. The best information and research are those that bring the relevant information, and that will depend on the sensibility of the researcher or that manager when they want to set up the researchers. That was all. Thank you very much. Muchas gracias, doctor. Una presentación muy rica, enriquecedora, mucha materia.
We don't have very much time, and I've been told that I shouldn't go beyond the time limit for this session. Couple of just quick comments on your presentation, and I think that really it brought in both theoretical perspectives and the practical perspectives on how we use evaluation. You have highlighted issues of some of the balances that we always have to keep in mind. You have balances between accountability and learning. We have balances between program improvement, evidence of effectiveness, and transparency, and so forth. Timeliness, you mentioned, really. Timeliness is another balance that you have to balance against how detailed research you made. You mentioned also the fact that that maybe lawmakers and policymakers don't always need so much detailed information, and they don't necessarily need to know how you arrived at your conclusions. On the other hand, we are technical people who are working always in a political environment, and we wish that policy were always informed by information, but often it is vice versa. A friend of mine uses the term of policy-based evidence-making rather than evidence-based policy-making. So we have to be ready to defend our data. We have to be ready to have the stuff behind there which shows how we arrived at our data, even if we don't always present it. Maybe one final comment to me is that you emphasize so much this accountability to people and how you learn from people and the demand from people. That is extremely important, and therefore when evaluation produces credible evidence which takes into account different aspects, it's also an accountability function then to disseminate it to the stakeholders. Okay, now I'm going against my own principle here and I'm talking too much. We are out of time, but the good news is that we will have a plenary session after lunch and we can continue the discussion then. It's not right after lunch, but it's later in the afternoon. And so I would have to stop. I'm given signals that I have to stop to speak now. So I won't open the floor. One more announcement is that please take your personal belongings from this room for the reason that they are going to reorganize the tables from this kind of a lecture mode into a discussion mode afterwards. So please take your stuff so that you don't lose it. And once again, thank you very much, Paulo, for very thought-provoking and good, rich presentation. Thanks.